and welcome in to the Lakers Fast Break YouTube channel. I'm your host for this evening, Magic Man, aka Sean Grace. I'd like to welcome in our colleague, friend, and co-host Joe Soro, and special guest, Mr. Jose Chris Lebron, by way of Queens, New York, in here talking about the New York Knicks. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having me.
Good
Appreciate it.
evening.
No problem. So, Jose, last time we saw the Knicks, they were in a hard-fought series against the Miami Heat, came up a little short. Off an impressive first-round win against the Cleveland Cavaliers, mind you. Um, a weird offseason, I thought. But you know what? They kept a steady hand. I really love the Dante DiVincenzo signing. They've re-signed Josh Hart. He's going to be there long term. And obviously, you got the Brunson burner. So they've reunited the Villanova trio once again. I'm thinking the Knicks will surprise a lot of people this year. What do you think, Jose?
I think first of all, it was a definitely. I didn't expect the season to go the way it went. I thought definitely improvement, but not to the not to what happened. Like I did not expect that at all. But it was a great season. Brunson definitely played above his above what I thought. I thought he would definitely bring stability to the point guard position, which I've been screaming at for years now. It definitely the expectations were, for him to come in and, be solid at the point guard, but not almost all NBA. He probably should have been an all-star, level type of point guard play. So that was, that was good to see. And obviously Randall and all that. But yeah, it was a good season. Obviously disappointing the way it ended, because the way we played Miami during the regular season, I thought that was going, in a 7-game series, we were going to be able to dominate the boards and all that. And because they don't have a lot of scoring, we were able to stop them, but that wasn't the case, and we couldn't shoot the three ball. Randall was he hurt his ankle really, really it wasn't healthy, and also we didn't really get the full to see what he was could be able to do. So it was disappointing, but still, if I want that's disappointing, but on the other side, it's like, we got to second round. We won a playoff series the first time since 2013. We don't have a lot of playoff series win in the last 20 plus years. So, to get a playoff series win and to feel some type of, confidence going into this season is it feels good as a fan. I think there's a lot of optimism going around in New York City, which we haven't had in a while. So that feels good.
Absolutely, Chris. You guys should feel good. And you know what? I'm really surprised at Tibbs as well. I mean, he's really changed with the times. There was a time period where he was still stuck in his ways in Minnesota, and I thought that whole Jimmy situation might have just cooked his kitchen up, and nobody would take a look at him again. But he's really changed with the times. I think it's almost as like a reluctant pop kind of philosophy. Like, I don't really like the 3-point shot, and I don't like, not playing my guys like 40, 42 minutes, but that's just the way it is. And that's just the way people are saying the game needs to be played. So he's adjusted. So my question to you guys is, what's the meter scale for the confidence with Tibbs right now and where he can take the Knicks?
Within the fan base, or you just feel the fan base? I think they're very up and down with the Tom Thibodeau. There's times where they like him, and then there's a lot of times where they're like, what is this guy doing? Why is he not playing this guy? Especially Obi Toppin's, prime example number one. Like his minutes, the fluctuation, it was kind of just all over the place. So, but I do feel like this is a make or break year for him. I think this is a make or break season for him, and if he doesn't, if he doesn't take us to that next level, I could definitely see that this could be it. He is an older coach, and he is still has his ways and all that. And as we see as the NBA continues to grow and going through that, a lot of teams going through with those young coaches and all that, and different philosophies. You know, if this team takes a step back, I could definitely see a place where Tibbs is this is it for him. So he has improved a lot with a lot of his ways and all that. The minutes still things is still a thing, but you play your best players. I never was really that mad about that situation. And I know a lot of Bulls fans are still can't forgive him, and understandably, but he plays his best players and all that, and he has his ways, and he a lot of people could get mad at him, but if it wasn't for him, we still be, he's the reason why we're relevant, and a lot of fans want to, I don't think fans want to go back to how it was before that when we were losing 60 games and not even getting the number one pick and all that. So he's definitely changed, the identity of this team. Whether he's going to be here for the next few years, I don't know, but I appreciate what he's done to help build respectability in this franchise. We were a laughing stock. I mean, we were a laughing stock. You guys know that the Knicks were a punchline. It wasn't fun. So he brings stability to this franchise. Now it's a matter of can he, because we know he could build teams. We've seen it before. He did it with Minnesota, even though they had their struggles, and Chicago. We've seen that, but can he take a team to that next step? We'll see what happens this year. So gonna be interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we have Chris Lebron with us, the host of Off the Ball, and you have a really cool guest next week, brother. Iron Eagle. That's really cool. He's actually one of my favorite broadcasters. Out here on the East Coast, we get the Yes Network, so I get to listen to him. He's really good. I think his son's got a lot of potential too, but I digress. We're also here with Joe Soro. Joe, do you have any questions for Chris?
Yes, there's been some talk today. There's been a lot of Nick info today. Surprisingly, obviously, the whole James Harden thing is the obvious attention getter with a possible request of a trade that Joel Embiid might be making. But one that came just a few hours ago was some discussions with the Grizzlies. Now, normally the internet will throw some BS out there, and you can tell by the monikers who they are. Like if it's something like off the printer or something, you're like, that's just a tabloid site that just tries to get clicks. But this is from Sports Illustrated, talking about possibly looking at somebody like Steven Adams out of Memphis to come to the Knicks. Now, he's not the second star you need. But the question I have for you is this team, I know there's a lot of Villanova players on there that have a winning pedigree, but is this team really dedicated to having a roster with Jalen Brunson being the one and then a bunch of really good guys that are going to accept their roles and do what needs to get done? Do the Knicks contingency see that as an advancement in the East?
That's something I've been thinking about for a while too, is like, and I just mentioned before, like what we were before is, you never want to go back to that. And it's good to where we're at. We're an improved basketball team. It's, you're going to get, every night you're going to get, they're going to fight and all that. But every team's expectation should try to compete for a championship, right? And I feel like right now with this team, with Brunson, yeah, he exceeded expectation and all that, but Randall is the biggest thing, right? He's improved, right? He's second. This is the second time making All NBA, so that's good. But we've seen what he done in the playoffs, and yeah, he was hurt, so you can give him a little bit of excuse. But second straight playoffs where he's not at, I think he was like 19 points, and the last one against Atlanta, he was like 17 points per game and then 38% shooting and all that, low splits and all that. Same thing with this, in this playoffs. So, and the way Leon has kind of been going and World Wide West and all that, like, they haven't shown the reluctancy to pull the trigger on deals. Right, we've seen it with Donovan Mitchell, and you keep hearing that they're interested in player A, player B, player C, but they're not willing to pull the trigger. And one thing I got frustrated with was constantly here, we're interested in this player, interested in that player, and then nothing happened. So, and then next year they're going to be interested in the next crop of guys, and then the next year, it's like I'm tired of it always being next year. It's just like, when is it? When are we going to pull the trigger? When are we? We feel like we got a great piece in Brunson, right? So who are we going to pair with Brunson to take that next step? Because I feel like we can do stuff in the East. I felt like we could have made the Eastern Conference Finals last year had we had a couple different pieces, But I feel like they made improvements. The team is going to be better. We're going to be that 4th, 5th seed, and that's cool. But I feel like there's a cap. We're a 4th, 5th seed right now as this roster is currently constructed, and it's going to be a pretty expensive team to be a 4th, 5th seed, second round team. Brunson we just paid. Julius Randle just got a contract. RJ just got paid. You just played Josh Hart, DiVincenzo, Mitchell Robinson.
IQ's going to get paid this offseason.
IQ is about, is up for a deal. That's why they traded Obi Toppin, because they weren't going to be able to afford him, So eventually it's like, yeah, you gotta take a chance. You gotta take a chance, and see what happens. But I know you don't just do it just to do it. And I know in New York there's a lot of you guys Lakers fans. The pressure, right? The pressure and all that. And we're in the same boat. Obviously we don't got the accolades you guys have, but there's a lot of pressure to make moves and get the star. We got to get the right star. So, but eventually it's going to be like, well, you don't have all these years to try to find that star. You gotta figure out something, so that's just my thing. I like that we're a competitive team, but it's also like, okay, we have all the resources, we got all the picks, we got some solid contracts that teams would want. We got Fournier has it as an expiring contract. Teams would love that. Okay, let's do something. So, and just it feels like they've just been reluctant. Leon's been reluctant to pull the trigger. So
what's the problem? Is it draft capital that they can't muster up? Are they having issues setting up a third team to get the assets needed to get what they need done? Because the current roster, Jalen Brunson's obviously exceeded expectations in terms of him being a one on a team that's winning, right? I think I can admit that, maybe a number one. But then the question is he a number one? Is he truly a number one? And when you're a number one, is he going to be the guy that can do what Jimmy Butler has done the last few years, where he just puts the team on his back and goes forward? The problem, though, is Jimmy Butler can't do it by himself in Miami. He's never really had a second guy there. So are the Knicks trying to put together a team like Miami, a team of guys that kind of can rough and tough it, and then when they get to the promised land, which is the NBA Finals, are they going to be able to compete with the stronger team in the West? Looking at their roster, Julius Randle is the Rudy Gobert of power forwards. He's great in the regular season. I should say this because it would sound more self-inflicting. They're the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's the Los Angeles Dodgers of power forwards, as in he's great in the regular season, but when the playoffs start, certain teams can really, really clamp onto him and also get into his head, and that kind of throws him off his game. Now, I never looked at Julius Randle as the missing link on a title team. I'd say if you wanted to go real on Julius Randle, he's probably a really good third guy on a title team. RJ Barrett, you guys just signed Josh Hart to a 4-year, $81 million extension. I think Josh Hart is a perfect role player that is on almost every championship team. But paying him $20 million a year, is that really what you really wanted to do? So you're talking about, I'm glad you brought up World Wide West, because it's kind of like you're in that mode of like, well, the Knicks really stunk for a long time, and at least they're competing now. So do you really crap on the current regime? You can't really do that because they're trying to get there. But as far as why they can't get or why they won't go forward with an acquisition that could help their team, I think it comes down to the fact that they just cannot get that star that they want, which would be a Joel Embiid. With all due respect to Donovan Mitchell, I think that would be a little too redundant with Jalen Brunson on the team. I think in the end that was probably the right deal, unless they sent out Jalen Brunson. But then again, you're doing a lateral movement at that point. It doesn't really matter. Might as well stick with the guy you have. So the Knicks at this point, from my observation, and if Thibodeau is still being looked at, I find it hilarious that you tell me that, by the way. Tom Thibodeau is maybe it used to be. I know a lot of things have changed in society these days, but you would think a guy like Tom Thibodeau would be someone that everyone in New York would love, right? These are the old Big East. He's like a Big East. He's like a Big East coach that got teleported to 2023. Why the hell would New York ever not want Tom Thibodeau to coach their team? So it's funny how people do this, but then the talk goes the other way when it matters. I mean, come on. Let's be real here, right?
It's a love-hate relationship with a lot of fans with Coach Tibbs. I'm one to be on with, especially with coaching. You're coaching. You're as good as your players are, right? And I think that's big. I think sometimes we try to always fire coaches and all that, but sometimes you got to just look at the players and see, if they're not getting it done or they're getting it done, and put the emphasis on that. But yeah, it's a love-hate relationship with Coach Tibbs here. And, I also think as far as like with New York in general, I think a lot of players, especially the way the team is covered, and also I think James Dolan is a huge factor in this too, why it's hard to get stars here. The coverage of the team is, the press, they'll get on you. They'll get on you hard. And, Melo tried it, and, we thought with Melo it was going in the right direction after especially 2013, and then it just took a nosedive and all that. But it's tough to, you guys know, you guys LA fans, it's, you're playing in these big markets. There's a lot of expectations. Now you guys actually have championships. So, it's different for you guys, but for us, we haven't won a championship since 1973. It's been a long time. So the fan base is clamoring for him, but like I said, not a lot of success in the last, 2 playoff series wins since we went to the finals in 99 and all that. So it's tough. It's tough. And, I'm one who believes that you have to go through the draft in order to get that star. I feel like you got to be able to go through the draft. We haven't had success drafting either. It's been, Richard Robinson's the first draft pick I think we re-signed since like Charlie Ward or something. It was something to that. Like, it's been crazy how we don't, but it's tough. But whether the Donovan Mitchell stuff, I think that was a lot to do with Worldwide West and I don't know if you remember when they attended the Dallas game in the playoffs against Utah, and they didn't like that Utah, and I think Utah kind of put that against New York and just asked for the house, and the Knicks were like, "Oh, you can't give you everything and all that," and then they wound up shipping off to Cleveland. But yeah, it's just.
I think you can say Danny Ainge might have irritated somebody like Wes. Wes is 100% I don't have a direct connect with Wes, but I do have a friend who is an acquaintance of his, and I could see that meeting with Danny Ainge and Wes, and Danny Ainge being the pain in the neck, if you will. Yeah. The pain in the neck in that discussion, and then Wes going, "F this guy."
Donovan Mitchell said he thought he was a Knick. He said, I forgot what podcast he was on, but he was like, "Yeah, whatever night it was, I went to sleep thinking I'm going to be going back home. I'm going to be a New York Knick." And then whatever happened, and he wound up going to Cleveland, and we wound up just going the way we went, but. it's for the Knicks, it's just if they're gonna pull the trigger, who's that guy? Are they waiting for one of these older stars? Like you keep hearing like Paul George and all, or are they gonna wait for this next like these next crop of guys that may be a little upset with their situation, and try to go after one of these young guys? I don't know, but I know how they're currently constructed right now. There's a cap, and I think it's the second round. Maybe they can, surprise upon it and get to a conference finals, but I think that's the cap, and that's cool. That's cool because, like I said, we've been pretty bad. You guys know we've been pretty trash for a while, but you want more, right? Who doesn't want more, right? You're not usually be satisfied with just getting to the second round. It's like, all right, well, how do we go from being a second round team to getting to the conference finals and getting to a championship and winning a championship? And right now, as constructed, I think, and we got to see how Brunson does year two. Now we got a whole year of Brunson as the guy, right? Because he was with Luka and all that. And then year one, like people weren't expected. Now you got a whole year of Brunson. How is Brunson going to be able to handle that now that teams are going to be able to center on him and all that? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So there's like two feelings right now with me. Like there's like, okay, I feel good, but then the other side is like, this could be bad. Like same feeling I had when we made the playoffs in 2020, and then next year I was telling people like we could have a bad year, and we had a bad year, and I was right. So I'm trying not to be too pessimistic, but I'm a Knicks fan, so it's kind of natural.
It's called being realistic.
With Chris Lebron here of Off the Ball Network. Please check out his podcast, Chris. So here's my theory, man. I've been a hooper for well over 33 years, brother, and I think here's what I think. So Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson both have 2 years left on their deal. They could both opt out. They both kill it this year. They're definitely opting out. There's no question about it. So for me, if I'm a Knicks fan and I'm thinking about what West might do, in 25, 26, that's when you got to make the move, brother. Like, because I think with Brunson playing the way he is, that's a stud. And to answer Joe's questions, I think he's like a 1B. I think he could be like a Pau Gasol. I just think there's a level above him, and it has nothing to do with Jalen's skills. The skills are off the charts. Just the size. That's all. That's the only thing holding his cat back.
He can't guard anyone. So I'm with you. I think he's a very good second option, but you have to find the number one option. That's right. How you win championships.
I think, and Joe was talking about Embiid. That seems like a perfect fit, and we all know that the past 3 years, if for all the casuals out there, Embiid has been having a wanting eye towards New York for a while now. So my feeling is that I think Daryl Morey and Worldwide West could be brothers, Chris. I think they could be brothers. So if that were the case, right, it's more than likely like somebody like RJ Barrett's out the door, right? Because if you're bringing in Joel, you gotta dip from that surplus of guards, because I'm not personally. They probably want Josh Hart too, and I wouldn't want to give up Josh Hart as well. Like I need perimeter defense around an older Joel Embiid at this point. So I'm gonna try and hold on to as many perimeter defenders as I can. But the Knicks also have an ace in the hole. It's the Mavs. At any point in time, if Luka breaks a leg, and knock on wood, don't wish that on anybody, but injuries happen. If that happens, the Mavs season could go sideways, Chris, and that means there's a whole new setup for the Knicks to take advantage of that. So, I mean, a lot of this is circumstance, but do you feel that the Knicks have the onions to make that kind of move?
They just have. I haven't seen them do it yet. So that's the one part of me that's like, I haven't seen them do it, so I don't know. I mean, this is what we were presented when we got everybody in the front office that they have all these connections to this player, that player, and we just haven't seen it yet. Now, I don't know if they're just waiting for that guy, but like the continuous waiting, you can't wait too long. You can't wait too long. But Joel has definitely been someone that's we've been hearing, and then everything going on in Philly, it's been a disaster. But the one thing that we were is his body is breaking down. It's breaking down, and is it a matter of it's going to break down next year or in 2 years, 3 years? It's going to happen, and he's just going to, it's going to be a fall, and then he's just going to be another guy, like so. That's the one thing that worries me about Joel. But I just I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger because they've had a couple deals where they could have and they haven't. They've been really close to the chest on their picks and not giving up some of the younger pieces, but eventually you have to take you got to swing for the fences. You guys did it with Anthony Davis, right? And you guys got a nice, really good, 10 times better young core than we had, and you pulled the trigger. And guess what? You came out with a world championship, so it worked for you guys. So,
Chris, you need one thing. See, the difference between the Lakers and the Knicks is that players of Anthony Davis's magnitude are demanding to go to LA.
LA, exactly.
No one is demanding to go to New York. That's the problem. And it might be a James Dolan issue. Because the reason why James Dolan brought in Worldwide West is to bring in that, hey, we feel comfortable with these guys versus that owner that's been kicking out Knick legends like Charles Oakley and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the problem with a lot of these teams that are supposed to be winning, like the Knicks, like Boston, let's say, right? Boston, what's been their issue for years is that they don't make anyone comfortable over there. They were blaming it on Danny Ainge, and then it turns out that it wasn't Danny Ainge. It's the culture over there. Now, I'm not saying that you need to. This is a business, and you need to. The Knicks, the Celtics had to trade somebody to get a scorer in, and they did that. Unfortunately, they had to sacrifice their one part of their image, which is, that's just what they had to do. They almost got it. Thumbs up to the Clippers for screwing that up. By the way, I'll never support the Clippers in anything except they did help a little bit there. But there is that issue. No one wants to play for the Knicks, and that has to change. If that changes somehow, then you'd probably have a better chance at getting a player like Joel Embiid, which he's the first guy other than maybe I like Donovan Mitchell, but I don't think Donovan Mitchell's an MVP ever. Damian Lillard, I don't know if he's ever said anything, but Damian Lillard won't want to go to Miami, so obviously we can't put him there. But if Joel Embiid info is legit, I don't know if it's legit that he would like to play in New York. That would be the first step, because if he demands to go to New York, you damn well better believe that deal's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And that's what you need. And I know the draft would be ideal, but you have to be Powerball $1 billion lucky, like those damn Texans down in San Antonio 3 times to get the right first overall pick. Could you imagine if you guys had gotten Zion, what would have happened to Zion in New York? Ooh, he might have weighed 500 pounds in New York. And he would have been. But anyways, I think that's the first step, honestly. Otherwise, I see the Knicks kind of treading water as much as they can. And I'm giving them props because they have improved. They did go get somebody, and they got him, and he's been a big part of their kind of resurgence here. But they need that one star, that it's a legit one. And if it is somebody like Embiid, and you're right about his injury thing, that's going to pop in a minute, by the way. But you think you have a couple more years until that happens.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And, we hear players love to play at the Garden, but you never hear a lot of players saying they want.
Yeah, because they can leave. See,
because they can
so
leave.
the analogy I use is everybody loves their nieces and nephews, but they get to go home.
I was about to say the same, analogy.
Right? When you go to New York, when you go to New York, it's easy. It's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go to New York. I want to play there. But if you've got to deal with the New York media, then you're like, peace out. I don't want to deal with this stuff.
I think that's a major thing too, is dealing with the media. Like I said, when you go there as a visitor, everybody, getting a New York in spurts is, that's good. Everybody loves that. But to be there, 41 home games a year and all that, and dealing with the media, it could be a lot. And I think that's why Kevin Durant didn't come here. I think he didn't want to deal with that, and that's why he wanted to be in New York. He just didn't want to deal with the New York media, and New York media is the Knicks media. It's not Brooklyn Nets. Let's be real. They're not going to be as scrutinized as the Knicks, and I think a lot of players don't want to deal with that because it's a lot. It is a lot to handle, and it's all in your face, and it's hard to avoid too. You hear a lot of players saying, "Oh, I don't." In New York, it's impossible. It's literally impossible. So I think that's a big thing too. Is the media, how the media is structured in New York? I think a lot of players don't want to deal with that. And I think that's a bigger thing. They just don't want to deal with that. That's just too much, and it can, in all our sports, in football, baseball, like this. Some guys. We've seen players go to the Yankees that were good pitchers, hitters, and all that, and they're like a shell of themselves. Then they leave, and they're back to being solid players or whatever. And the same thing in New York is just it could chew you up, and sometimes you can't recover. And like I said, it's being in New York could be good in spurts, but it's just a matter of a one person like Melo, like, hey, I want to be a New York Knick. Amari Stoudemire, I want to be a New York Knick. Now, unfortunately, with Stoudemire, his knees got busted, and that was it. And that's kind of a fear with Embiid, because we experienced it with Amari, is like, yeah, you want to be here, but how long before those knees just erode, and now we got to shell him. So now we got Amari. Now we got you on the books for 4 years, and it's and you're not playing. So
why didn't LeBron go to New York?
That's always been the thing. I just think the Dolan thing.
I think it was Dolan. I think it's Dolan.
I think,
but see the jackknife for my brain, Chris, is that when you look at the Rangers, they've made Stanley Cups under the ownership of James Dolan. So kind of jackknifes me that you can get out of the way in one organization and see them get to the pinnacle and almost the apex, right? Just the Rangers have been right there a couple times. But he won't step out of the way when it comes to the Knicks. For some reason, that's a bugaboo and I've never understood.
It's because it's the Knicks. It's just to think about it. We're worth more than you guys.
Yeah, 100%. It doesn't
even make sense. We have 2 playoff series wins since 2000s, went to the finals, and we are the number 1 grossing franchise. And it's just because it's just a bigger, like the Rangers.
Location,
yeah,
brother. It's New York.
It's just New York, and basketball is just bigger than hockey. So it's just gonna have more eyeballs on it than the Rangers are, where he could just let it be and just whatever, let it run. And he probably doesn't know as much hockey, doesn't know basketball. Not that he knows a lot about basketball, but he's just in the eye of basketball warriors and hockey. It's just it's just because it's New York and it's the Knicks and it's Madison Square Garden, it's the Mecca, it's all this. It's just everything's going to be, and then the stuff that's happened with the Knicks, not even on the court, off the court, with Charles Oakley stuff, and with Spike Lee, it's just, especially with the Oakley stuff, that's and then just with everything going on, there's just guys, and I feel like with LeBron twice, he could have been like Kevin Durant, one of those guys should have been a Knick. It just makes too much sense. But whatever happened in 2010 with LeBron not going there, and whatever the Knicks fumbling that, and then especially in 2019 with Kevin Durant, that was the most locked situation. I was like, yeah, we're going through this miserable season, but we're gonna come out of it with Kevin Durant.
That's and I'm like, too.
We're gonna have a high pick. We could trade that pick to get someone else. It was like, okay, we have to go through, we got to go through the bad to experience the good, and then everything just went bad, and I didn't experience any good. So it's just like,
and again, my
yeah.
theory, Chris, on that brother, like I'm with you. I thought for sure. I'm like 97% sure KD's going to the Knicks.
I was 100%. I was 100%.
I wasn't 100%, but yeah.
There was people that sources trusted that like he's coming to New York. They just maybe they were just saying he did come to New York, just not to the Knicks. No. He just went to, he went to play for Brooklyn. So
here's my theory on that. I think Kyrie got in his ear and was like, I can't handle New York media. I don't think KD was in any way intimidated by it at all. But I think Kyrie got in his ear and it's like, no, brother, let's go to Brooklyn.
I think KD wanted the Knicks. Kyrie wanted Brooklyn. Neither wanted to go there by themselves. And the Knicks just went through a terrible season, bad management. Brooklyn, remember, they had D'Angelo. They struggled to start season, but then D'Angelo started hooping. They make the playoffs. KD's like, well, we could try to flip the city, which is never gonna, even if they won championship, it would never happen. But we could go and play in New York. We just don't have to deal with the media like the Knicks do. Oh, let's just do that. And I think that's what happened, because I believe 1,000 million 100% that KD was coming to the Knicks, and the Knicks got in their own way, and Kyrie wanting to be in Brooklyn was like, all right, well, let's play in New York. We'll just go play in Brooklyn. And I'll always believe that's the case. But I think the Knicks are in the right direction. I feel like hopefully they can change that, where, like we said, like we guys mentioned, like where that top free agent, whoever that is coming up, is like, I'm going to New York. Who's coming with me? Because it just doesn't make sense how in forever amount of years the Knicks are never able to get that guy, and it's just it really is crazy. But hopefully they could change it. It's better than it was before pre 2020. So, but it's still, we still got a long ways to go.
100%. Here with Chris Lebron from Off the Ball podcast, and also here with my co-host Joe Sora. And Joe, any questions for Chris?
So the question is there I have a couple questions actually. One that's Knick related and one that's New York related. If New York loses in the first round this year, is Thibodeau out?
It would depend how they lose, but I think anything less than that second round is I think he's going to be gone. I just think eventually, I think he wears out people, and it could be the case here and management could be trying to find that next good young head coach. As we see, that's the trend, is getting those young head coaches in their mid-30s and all that have innovative offenses and all that. And if the offense continues to be an issue, the pace, because the pace of play has always been, in the bottom tier of the league. And if the 3-point shooting continues to struggle and the lack of ball movement, it seems like it's Julius Randle ISO on the box, on the post or on the top of the key, or Brunson just doing what he does, pick and roll, or just trying to do everything himself. Eventually, it's just going to be stagnant, and then nothing's going to happen. So,
and that's why
the offense isn't moving and all that. I could definitely see a change in him trying to get.
And that's what ends up killing them in the playoffs, because they can't run ISO without spreading the floor, right? I mean, that's ultimately what needs to happen here.
That's why we lost to Miami. That's why because how they played against Miami in the regular season, especially. They played Miami towards the end of the regular season, and I watched that game a bunch of times because I was like, all right, whatever happened early in the season, you can't really whatever. But that last game at the Garden, I was like, okay, they could beat them. They could beat Miami and all that. And none of what they did in that game to contain Jimmy and all that worked. And then the shooting was off, and just everything was just out of whack. And then obviously Randall being hurt, but the offensive, the lack of movement, the lack of pace. If it's the same or worse, eventually, and especially if they lose in the first round, anything short of the second round, yeah, I could definitely see them being like, okay, maybe they give Johnny Bryan a shot, their assistant, or maybe they look somewhere else and revamp the whole coaching staff and all that and try a new philosophy because the offense it got very stagnant, and relying on Brunson to save us against Miami, it just wasn't it's not going to work again. You're not going to be able to do that against Boston, Milwaukee, and the Heat. You're going to be a first round exit, type of team, right? So that thing got to change. But if they lose in the first round, depending how they lose, it does. If they get swept, then yeah, he's gone. But if it's I don't know. If it's a 7-game series, maybe it all depends. It all depends. But I think anything short of getting back to the second round, I think he's gone. But this is a major year for him.
So looking at Brooklyn, the Knicks, would you say that the Yankees are the Knicks and Brooklyn are the Mets in terms of media pressure? So when you look at the Mets, actually they've been playing well this last week or so, but would you say that it's the pressures this just like Brooklyn with the Mets?
I wouldn't even say
when they're not winning.
I think Brooklyn's on the bottom of the pressure. They have no pressure.
Why did they bring them to Brooklyn? Why didn't they just leave them in New Jersey?
They want to, New York. We need two of everything, so we needed another team. I think they're probably better off staying in Jersey because there was no pressure. You play in Jersey, like everybody loved them when they were in Jersey. Even Knicks fans,
they just drafted Kobe Bryant. They'd still be in Jersey. They'd have a mausoleum right now.
What, to take Kerry Kittles instead?
I'm telling you, man. I know that I think Calipari. This is my theory. I think Calipari didn't throw anyone under the bus. Calipari wanted Kobe, and he got vetoed from management and ownership for that. I have a very good feeling that's what happened. He wanted Kobe. Yep. And Kobe said, and here's what scared him. Kobe said, "I'm going to Duke if you draft me," which was, he admitted it was pure garbage. Yeah. Like he would have played in New Jersey. And why wouldn't he? It's 20 minutes from Philly. Imagine Kobe in New Jersey. He would have been, he's a god in LA. As a matter of fact, I've said numerous times, he's the biggest star in LA. The only one that you can argue, honestly, is Magic Johnson, right? But I think Kobe had a little bit of a connection that was just different in LA in terms of his personality. Magic was beautiful and elegant and amazing and just everything you want in positiveness, where LA has a lot of ruggedness, and Kobe has like a dark side that they really attached themselves to. He said numerous times, he goes, I can go to Baskin Robbins or Orange County and get an ice cream. I'll sign a few autographs. I'll do some, baby holding and all that. But he goes, I step one foot out in LA. I'm everybody goes wacko, right? So looking on that, and I've always used the Knicks and Jersey as a what if area, right? Because it's New York. What if he goes to New Jersey? How different would the landscape be in New Jersey and in that area in general? And the other one was, and I haven't talked about this a lot, and one of these days we're going to do a show on it. If you teleported, because the 90s, I know Jordan was astronomically better than everybody, and that's probably why it was like this. But I always said, I go, how different or how badass would the 90s have been if Kobe was playing the 2 spot on the Knicks during the 90s? Could you imagine? For sure, Jordan wouldn't have 6 championships. Somewhat, 2 or at least a couple of those would have went the Knicks' way, right? So I don't know why I thought of this. One day I was sitting having drinks with my Laker friends, and we were talking about New York and this, because I was at the last game. I just happened to have a movie festival I was at in New York. Had a chance to go see Brooklyn at Barclay. Barclay, is that how you call it? Barclay? Happened to watch. I was just by sheer luck, Lakers were in town that weekend. I said, oh, shoot, I'm getting tickets to go to the Brooklyn game, and I'm going to try to scalp some tickets to the Knicks game because everything was sold out. This is before he made his announcement. Obviously, if he had made his announcement before that game, it would have probably cost me $2,000. But I got lucky. He called it like maybe a couple weeks later. So I'm in New York, and I was able to get tickets to the Brooklyn game, watched it. I thought Brooklyn the look in Brooklyn was like Staples Center East, but better because it was black. I love to wear black. I like black. And then I go to New York and I get in about 3 or 4 minutes in because finally I was able to find someone to give me a ticket at a price I wanted. Finally got in there. Unfortunately, Kobe couldn't finish the game off to win the game. I think he had a last second shot that he missed. But just the atmosphere in New York. I mean, you can't really replace Madison Square Garden. There's too much aura in there from all the boxing matches and all the amazing games that have happened in there. And that's the part where I'm like, man, imagine if, and it becomes kind of a really cool discussion. And that's what I have on that.
Yeah. Like, what if Steph gets, one more pick away? Like, so there's a lot of what ifs with the Knicks and all that. What if we had just?
My God, I'm glad you brought that up. I was watching that day. I don't know why a lot of people don't talk about this. The Knicks were going to get him.
No, he was a Knick.
It was guaranteed. And when Golden State picked him, and then they got Jordan Hill. I didn't know much about Jordan Hill, but oh my God, Jordan Hill for my whole life, as long as I'm alive, will always be that moment. Not the Laker moment. Forget about that. It's like, oh my God, you went from Steph Curry to Jordan Hill. It was almost like you said, just auto pick. Like
that's exactly how it felt like because we're like, all right, maybe this is gonna happen. All right, and we're getting close, and obviously the Minnesota passes on him twice. They take 2 point guards, not named Steph Curry, and it's like it's gonna happen. And then because the Warriors had Monte Ellis, it's like, all right, they don't need Steph. We're gonna get Steph Curry. Obviously doesn't go the way as expected, and we like you said, auto pick. We're like, at this point, who cares? Just take whoever. It doesn't matter.
See, and this is where the Knicks messed up, and this is my next part. I'm so glad. By the way, when I found out you were coming on, I was very, very excited because I don't get a chance to talk to Knicks guys ever here. No one knows jack squat over here about anything Knicks or New York basketball. Nothing, right? I'm an anomaly out here that cares about this stuff, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm going, why the hell did they not call Minnesota? Did they really, you can't take a risk on that one. Why did they not call Minnesota? They had 2 picks in the top 10. Just do something to make sure you get that guy. Even that guy, just his shooting enough before anything that happened was a guarantee.
You know what? Well, you know what? Knowing how the Knicks were ran, they would have probably traded him. They probably would have traded him.
They probably would have gave up on him after his ankle problem.
The Warriors almost traded him.
Yeah.
They almost gave up on him. I think that the Knicks would have gave up on him after the first few years and the ankle stuff. They might have got. So there's a part of me that's like, we were 1 pick away. But there's also a part of me that's like, what if we had traded him and he becomes Steph Curry in freaking wherever in New Jersey or wherever? What if he's a star and we traded, a 4-time champion away somewhere? So this part of me is like, you know what? I'm glad that's just like it didn't happen. We didn't get the chance to mess it up because we would have messed it up, honestly. So there's a part of me that's like, yeah, you know what? The way it went was the way it's supposed to go, and we just got to try to find our Steph Curry somewhere else. But it's crazy. But he was going to be a Knick too. Like he wanted to go there. Him and D'Antoni would have been absolutely. That would have been match made in heaven.
He might have been the first. He might have been the first guy since, is it David Thompson, Sean, to win the scoring title and the assist title?
Yes. Oh no, that was Nate Archibald.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. I've been watching.
No, it's all
David
good.
Thompson. I heard David Thompson from the show last week, and my brain went there for some reason.
KYS, Joe. KYS.
Yeah.
It's all right. Everybody has. Anyway, we're here with Chris Lebron from Off the Ball. Chris, it's just been a great conversation so far. And look, before we head on out, 2 quick questions. Part A is, like you were saying, Brunson needs some help defensively. So the Knicks have the following defenders to put beside him: Quentin Grimes, Miles McBride, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart. Pretty strong core there. Those are four really good perimeter defenders. Plus, you got IQ coming off the bench, right? So, Philly is not going to be a top 3 seed this year, Chris. We all know that. So, are you optimistic that if the Knicks play a little bit above their head and above expectations, that they could slide into that 3? Because I think myself, Joe, I think a lot of people would kind of see them as you do, like the 4 or 5 slot. That's where they're kind of going to end up being. Do you think they could squeak into a 3rd spot by surprising folks?
I think they could, but it also depends with RJ Barrett, because right now he's our 3rd option, right? I think if Julius Randle's healthy, you're gonna get what we've seen from Julius Randle, right? He's gonna give you 25 and 10. That's in regular season, right? I feel comfortable. He's gonna give you that 23 to 25 points per game, 10 rebounds a game. I'm gonna give you that. I'm confident Brunson's gonna play close to what he played last year. Maybe not to that high, but he's gonna play damn near, all NBA, 3rd team all-star-ish kind of bad basketball. But RJ Barrett is the X factor. If RJ Barrett could, because the ups and downs of him and then what disappointed with him last year was his defense. His defense took a hit, where I'm not saying he was a great defender, but he was solid. It just felt like last year he definitely regressed defensively, and that's something that was really disappointing. And then he was all solid in the playoffs, but just too many ups and downs with him. And I don't know, is that because they brought in Brunson and he didn't get that many shots and all that, but he's going to definitely need to step up and take the reins as that 3rd guy and be more consistent, especially on the perimeter and all that. So can they? Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Sixers are regressing. Even Miami, like if they don't get Dame, Miami, like, yeah, I mean, we still believe that they're still, can do it, but they can't keep. They lost some pieces and all that, and eventually you can't keep thinking just because you're the Miami Heat. You get older and all that. It may the whatever happened last year, the magical run, they can get bounced in the 1st round and get swept, like so like how it happened when they were in the bubble. The next year, Milwaukee punched them in the mouth and swept them, or damn near swept them. So can it happen? Yeah, it could. If RJ takes the progressions, if Quentin Grimes takes that next step, I feel like there's so much potential in Quentin Grimes. There's a lot of Allen Houston in his game, but it's a matter of getting that opportunity and all that. So it's the things. Health too is going to be crucial and all that. So yeah, I think they could. I wouldn't be surprised, but they need things to go their way. RJ needs to take a step forward. Quentin Grimes to take a step and all that. So
they might, if Tom Thibodeau doesn't work, they might have to start calling Jay Wright.
You know what? Wow. It's kind of funny, Chris. You bringing up Allen Houston. I think he's the first dude to ever put emojis on his sneakers. If I'm not mistaken, H2O. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was the first one to do it, and obviously he had the onions for it because he could shoot the lights out.
Yeah.
Wow, that's go back. That's really cool. But our second question, Chris. Look, we are keep it real in this podcast, brother. We don't sugarcoat things for ourselves and for our audience. So we want to hear what you have to think about the Lakers. Your unabashed, balls to bone opinion. How do you see the Lakers doing this year, Chris?
Before the trade, I didn't get what the roster construction was. Before you guys, I was like, I don't know what is this? What's going on? Like you guys just like I didn't know how they thought that roster construction was going to do anything. And as you saw, you didn't do anything. Then you make the trade, and you guys wound up going to the Western Conference Finals. I think I wouldn't be surprised if those guys go to the NBA Finals. I think this is LeBron's. This is his last true go, I believe, and he's going to get everything out of AD and all that. I feel like AD is going to have a little bit of chip on the shoulder, and all that. And you guys got some good pieces and all that. Austin Reeves, finding him and getting him back for what you got him for that's a steal. He's probably $100 million player, and you got him for half the price and all that. Bringing back D'Lo. I know people complain about D'Lo, but it is what it is. That the way the money's going, that's $20 million is not what $20 million used to be. Like that's nothing and all that. And so I like what you guys do. I think like Denver might regress a little bit, so that can get you over that hump and all that. So I think. There's a lot of teams out west that just a lot of uncertain. The team that plays in the same building, they could win the championship or they can miss the playoffs. Like it's just like
they can miss the playoffs.
Yeah, so it's like and then they got their uncertainty. Paul George re-signing, Kawhi, and all that. But yeah, I think I like what you guys are doing. LeBron's not a typical 39-year-old because he's just he's a cyborg. And I feel like he's going to go all in to get 5, to get that 5th ring and all that, and to really solidify his legacy as a Laker. Because it's one thing to get one championship, but you get multiple as a Laker. Now you're in a different stratosphere. You're in a different bracket now. Like we know what the all-time scorer and all that, but it's what you do in a Laker uniform. You got 1 ring. We need a little more, because I know how you Lakers fans. It's Kobe, and all that, and if he gets another one, I think like even Lakers fans will be like, all right, LeBron, we finally get that a stamp of approval.
You get to sit at the table. Yeah, you finally get a seat at the table. Yeah, you get to sit with Magic.
Yeah,
you get to sit with Kobe. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. Because people with the bubble, and I think the bubble ring, like people discrediting is the biggest load of crap in the world. Like that ring is hard. That was no home court advantage. No, nothing like that. That was a tough ring to get. So, like, if LeBron's able to get a real ring, that solidifies him, and that puts you. And you guys are tied with the Celtics, right?
That's right. That's right.
To me, if you can get more rings than the Boston Celtics, that's a beautiful thing.
I think the Knicks Knicks fans would have a beer on the Lakers if they got one more than the Celtics.
Don't want Boston having anything. We don't want Boston having being the leader of anything. So if you guys could get ahead of them, because I'm so tired of them and all their sport, because they have been winning. So and they're throwing in our faces, and especially New York. But if you can get ahead of them, at least you don't got to hear them as much. But it's I think you guys are gonna be good. I think LeBron's he's on a mission and all that, and to get that 5th ring and all that, and you guys, Anthony Davis, re-upping Anthony Davis is good. Austin Reeves bringing him back, bringing back a lot of good pieces to a team. I mean, and like I said, Denver's going to regress. The Clippers are whatever. I'm over the Clippers and all. I know that mess and all that, and this feels like a lot of disarray out west and all that. So you guys are in the Memphis. We don't know Ja's going to be missing 25 games and all that, and you guys did to them even when Ja was there. You guys took it to them. They showed them. And they got a lot of good up and coming young teams, but those teams are like a couple years away from being a factor. So I think you guys are in prime position to get to the finals. I think this could be the year for you guys to get back there. So yeah, I think you guys are in good shape.
Appreciate your honest assessment, brother. And before we head on out and let you plug the show, are you a football fan, Chris?
Oh yeah.
Who's your team?
I'm a Giants fan.
You're a Giants fan. Okay. All right. So how do you feel about the Giants now in the East? Because that schedule is tough.
I mean, we start off with a bang, Sunday Night Football against Dallas at home, so that's going to be tough. But another team, just like my Knicks, we had some down years after that Super Bowl. So, Brian Dable's come in and Joe Shane, they've come in and they cleaned out house. Whatever the bad things happened with the previous regime with Mr. Gettleman, got rid of a lot of those guys and all that, and revamped this team pretty quick, a quick turnaround. And I feel confident. I like what's going on in camp. With this team, they resolved the Saquon situation and all that, gave him some money up front for at least one more year. So at least we'll have him back. He was our best player. Daniel Jones seems like we're getting better and better. He finally had consistency at the coaching position, so he's going to be, we got some weapons. Defense seems like it's improved. We drafted a cornerback, Banks out of Maryland. I feel a lot of optimism. That just like with the Knicks, a lot more optimism than was in previous years when it was just an absolute dumpster fire and all that. But I feel good about them this year. With a tough division, we got the Eagles. I think they're the cream of the crop in the NFC East. But I think with Cowboys and whatever Washington's called now, I don't know what their names. Commanders,
Hopefully, Magic can fix that.
Yeah,
Magic can fix that.
I think they might go back to the old name and all that. I think that's definitely. I think they're going to go back to that name for some reason.
Man, that would be nice. It would really be.
But,
I can't. I keep saying Redskins.
Yeah, it's just that because look, what football team? I think they're just going to go back to them if they find a way to get back because it's just Commanders is
Yeah, you're right, brother. That division is going to be interesting. I'll say that the Eagles lost 7 starters, and that's tough. That's really tough to replace.
And Jalen Hurts, I think, is going to take a little bit of regression because last year was just a magical season. I think he take a little bit of a hit. And
but let me tell you something, man. As a Raiders fan, if he stays healthy, you guys will love Darren Waller. He is a freak. And Daniel Jones desperately needed a tight end in the red zone last year because the Giants had a little bit of problems in the red zone. In the middle of the year,
our worst enemy for the last 10 years.
So I think that was a great pickup by Dayball. I think
the third round pick.
Yeah, I think you guys are in prime position to make the playoffs again, Chris. So
I hope so.
So before we head on out, brother, shameless plug time. Go ahead, Chris. By all means.
First of all, thank you guys for having me on. This was a lot of fun. So appreciate you guys. You guys do some dope work and all that. So thanks again for having me on. But you can follow me at Off the Ball Pod on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. So you can follow me there. Also, I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Off the Ball Network. That's my network too. So you can follow us there. OTB_network on Twitter also. Follow me on my podcast on all podcast platforms. I've had a lot of cool people on the show. Former NBA players. I've had Kenny Anderson, Charlie Ward. I've had a lot of cool people on the show, and then like this week, this Sunday, I got Iron Eagle coming on. So that's really cool. I haven't done a show in a month or so, new job, crazy busy, but I have found some time. So, going to get Iron on to
Where do you live? Where do you live, Chris?
I'm in Staten Island, New York.
Okay. So it's a little easier to commute in Staten Island, right?
Oh yeah, a little because it's it's separated essentially from the other 4 big boroughs and all that. It's just our own little island and all that. But
so
it's quiet.
When do you think you'll be doing the show primarily? How far are you from that? You think?
What the show was as far as what?
You said you had work the last month.
I do a lot like remote, like you guys do. I do a lot. I haven't done a lot of like in-person shows and all that. I have a lot of it's just like how we doing it now. So try to find time on the weekends to do it. Right now with the work schedule now, but gonna get ramped up and get some really cool guests in the next few weeks and all that. But starting off with Iron Eagle, starting off with a bang and all that, so that's cool. But you can follow the podcast on all podcast platforms. Off the Ball Network is the YouTube channel and all that, where you can find a lot of the content. We got a lot of football stuff coming on there. I think we got a Raiders. Do I got a Raiders fan? I might have a Raiders. Yeah, I got a Raiders guy, I think. So check it out.
What about Jets fans?
Jets fans. I don't have a Jets fans a lot with my network. We have
Rodgers might not make it through the first game. Yeah. Let's be honest.
That offensive line's a little shaky, man.
Oh my God.
He wasn't happy with them.
He's having second thoughts, I think, when he sees Scott Milano coming up the middle.
He's gonna have to, use that arm of his, a lot of quick passes and all that. But yeah,
you got it, brother.
Yeah, but I appreciate you guys for having me on. You can check me out on all those. I'm always active on Twitter. So if
we got to have you on, Chris. We had to have you on the 2 games before the 2 games we play the Knicks.
Of course, I'm there. Just let me know. Like I said, hit me up and we'll make it happen. Hopefully, we can do a lot more stuff together. You guys do great work. So appreciate you guys for having me on.
Likewise, Chris. Thank you for coming on, brother, and salute. The audience is clapping loudly for you, brother. So thank you. This was not only informative but entertaining as well. So with that, we'll end the pod. I'm the host, Sean Grace, aka Magic Man, my co-host, Joe Soro, our special guest, Chris Lebron. Have a good evening, everybody.